Lecture 10, Geologic Maps. A geologic map shows the distribution of different kind of rocks at the surface. But besides this, a geologic map provides information about the 3D geometry of structures and the geologic history of the region. To read a geologic map on a piece of paper and to grasp the 4D aspects of the geology displayed, requires practice and attention both to details and to the overall map pattern. A geologic map is a subtle combination of observed facts and interpretation. Notice that the word interpretation is highlighted. Geologic maps can contain inconsistencies, contradictions, and errors. This is an example of a geologic map. The geologic map of the Asker region, southwest Oslo. The map has a main description. It is at scale 1 to 50,000. So 1 centimeter is 500 meters, and it was published by the Norwegian Geological Survey in 2017. The map also has a geological overview, which describes the main tectonic units, and when and by whom the map was completed. Then, we have a description of the stratigraphic units. The red and brown units to the left are autochthonous rocks from the Paleozoic and Mesozoic. These rocks were formed during the formation of the Oslo Rift about 300 million years ago. The green and blue units to the right are allochthonous Cambrian to Silurian rocks. These rocks were thrusted during the Caledonian orogeny about 400 million years ago. The pink and light purple units at the bottom are Precambrian rocks. They are older than 1 billion years and are the basement in this region. We then have a legend explaining the symbols of the map. We will look at these symbols in a next slide. Then, we have the geologic map itself, with geographic coordinates and a horizontal scale. And vertical sections across the map. These are called cross-sections and are an interpretation of the rocks in the subsurface. We will look at cross-sections next week. Almost all geologic maps contain these elements. This is a list of common symbols on geologic maps. It is important to know all these symbols to be able to understand the map. Pay attention to how contacts, normal and reverse faults, and folds, anticlines and synclines, are marked. Notice the symbol for strike and dip and for overturned bedding, as well as the symbols for foliations and joints. Cross-cutting relationships in geologic maps are very important. They tell us something about the history of the area. To work with them, we need to remember Steno's principle of superposition. Layers of rock are arranged in a time sequence, with the oldest on the bottom and the youngest on the top. Following the same principle, younger contacts cover or cut older contacts. In the 3 cases above, the rocks become younger up section from the Cambrian sandstone at the bottom, to the tertiary conglomerate at the top. Also, the curved contact is the youngest contact, since it covers or cuts the older straight contact. However, the nature of the curved contact is different in each case. In the first case, younger tertiary conglomerates rest on top of older, southerly dipping, Silurian and Devonian sediments. The curved contact is an unconformity formed by erosion of Devonian to Cretaceous strata, and deposition of tertiary conglomerates. In the second case, older Cambrian sandstones rest above easterly dipping Silurian and Devonian strata. This is a thrust. The Cambrian sandstones have been thrusted over the Silurian and Devonian sediments. And in the third case, Cretaceous granodiorite cuts Silurian and Devonian strata. A granodiorite is an igneous, intrusive rock, and therefore this is an intrusive contact. The granodiorite intruded the Silurian and Devonian sediments. Cross-cutting relationships tell us a lot about the order of events in an area. Let's look at this example. The stratigraphy is the same than in the previous example. The tertiary conglomerates rest unconformably over the Silurian and Devonian sediments. They also cover and are younger than the east-west fault. The Cretaceous granodiorite is older than the east-west fault, since it is offset by this fault. The Cretaceous granodiorite, however, is younger than the thrust. Therefore, the order of events from oldest to youngest is deposition of the Cambrian, Silurian and Devonian. Then, thrusting of the Cambrian over Silurian and Devonian. Then, intrusion of the Cretaceous granodiorite. Then, movement of the east-west fault. And finally, deposition of the tertiary conglomerates. In class, we will analyze this geologic map. Let's look at the orientation of the units. In which direction does unit C dip? The base of C makes a V across the valley. This V tells us that this unit dips west. We can trace structure contours on the base of C, here the 500 and 420 meters contours. Then, we can measure the horizontal distance between the structure contours in a direction perpendicular to them. This distance is about 220 meters. And, we can use this information to determine the dip of the unit, which is about 20 degrees. So, geologic maps contain lots of information about the geometry of the units. To learn more about this part, read Chapter 9 of Marshak and Mitra. And answer these questions.